So without further ado, I would like to introduce our speakers of the day, Victoria Grase and Woomy Michel. And so I will introduce Woomy first. So Woomy is a graduating senior mathematics major with a computer science minor at Clark Atlanta University. Throughout her matriculation, she has interned at GoFundMe as a data analyst, served as a data science research intern for HBCU Up, and conducted solar energy research through Northeastern University's electrical and computer engineering program. And HBCU Up program is run by, I think co-run by Dr. Eric Mintz, who's also on our faculty advisory board. So it's all connected. So upon graduation, we'll be conducting research at Oak Ridge National Laboratory in facial data and artificial intelligence. Woomy is a strong advocate for algorithmic fairness and ethical AI and hopes to minimize bias that exists in tech. She has been admitted to multiple, I won't say how many because I don't need anybody to get jealous, but multiple elite master's programs in data science and computer science. I have no idea how she's going to choose. It's going to be super hard, and we really look forward to see where she goes off in the data ecosystem. Our second presenter is Victoria Grase. She is a graduating senior physics major with a minor in mathematics. She has a passion for data science and wants to put her skills to use with the end goal of using data science to launch a program to help financial wealth and literacy in low socioeconomic communities. She has had a professional research and technical skills with major companies such as Ericsson and also small businesses such as Hudson Homes Management LLC. Her next steps are to attend graduate school, receiving her master's degree in data science. And again, I won't say the schools because they're awesome, amazing, and fantastic. At their elite programs in data science. And again, I don't know how both of you all will choose. So without further ado, let's welcome Victoria Grase and Woomy Michel, who would talk about human trafficking awareness through data science.
So hello, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Washington, for the great introduction for Woomy and I. Today, we'll be going over trafficking awareness, data analysis, augmentation, and research and results. Excuse me. So first, we have our table of contents. We'll go over the background statistics and knowledge where we'll review our poll results that you all took earlier in the beginning, the review of initial approach, the research question or hypothesis, the data set given by the nonprofit organization we worked closely with on this project, data augmentation strategy and results, the conclusion we came up to, what's next for our project, citation and references, and our acknowledgements and thank yous. So what do we know about child trafficking and what methods are in current use? So again, we had you all take a poll earlier. I'm going to have my partner, Michel, discuss the results and how they will, actually, I can discuss the results. As we see, most people in our session today range from the age of 46 through 59 majority and 18 to 29. So most people get their news. Okay, most people get their news through other. Okay, I would expect a little bit. No, that's a lie. Through social media with 41%. Sorry, you guys, it's a little light scene. So now we'll see where everyone sees their daily news and alerts and information. Again, usually through social media, the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even MySpace maybe. The social media app that people use majority of their time is actually Facebook, which I find surprising, but not really due to our audience group we're dealing with today. That's usually the audience that tends to go towards the Facebook platform more. Twitter is the next runner-up, okay? And how often do you engage in social media weekly? So nobody actually gave a realistic answer. Usually the average human is on social media for 12 plus hours on a weekly basis. But, you know, not everyone can be self-aware, and that's okay. I'm just kidding. But okay, we see 0 to 30 minutes, 30 minutes to 2 hours. According to the United Nations in 2018, what social media platform do you believe they identified as top used human traffickers? Okay, so a lot of people said Facebook. Great, great job. So the answer was Facebook. That was identified by the United Nations. Snapchat, okay. TikTok. TikTok is a newer platform. It was actually called Musically in 2018. So technically it did not exist during this study, but TikTok, okay. And what do you think is the highest targeted age group for human trafficking? Okay, most people think 0 through 16. All right. 17 through 33, you came in next with 36%. All right, so the answer is actually 17 through 33 is the highest age group for targeted human trafficking. And do you think social media is essential in 2022? 82% said yes, 18% said no. And if you said no, you are living in a world of delusion. Social media is evolving along with the world of technology, and it is needed for communication, in my opinion, but it's actually a great opinion. So next we have our poll results. Thank you all for participating. We'll move on to our next slide.
So what is human trafficking? As defined by the United Nations, it's known as the recruitment, transportation, harboring, or receipt of persons by force, fraud, or coercion. It's oftentimes referred to as the modern day slavery, and it's estimated that 40.3 million people are affected in the entire world. And a significant portion comes from places such as the United States. So human trafficking can be categorized into 3 main descriptions, which are children who are induced into commercial sex work, adults who are induced into commercial sex work through force, fraud, or coercion, and children and adults that are forced to perform labors or services through fraud, force, or coercion. Now, it's important to note that forced labor makes up majority of the human trafficking cases. It's estimated that $150 billion are generated through the means of illegal trafficking. And this problem lies at the intersections of issues such as gender-based violence, anti-Blackness, labor and migration rights, so on and so forth. So some risk factors are socioeconomic status. Most victims come from low income backgrounds, and some use it as a means to survive or obtain some sort of social mobility. Forced marriage, which primarily affects young girls. Oftentimes they are married into families so that they can help their primary family obtain some sort of income to elevate their socioeconomic status. Residential religious schools, these are often used as like harboring grounds or places for abusers to prey on actual victims, and the absence of family. So for those that come from multi-marginalized identities, such as queer identities, they're oftentimes ostracized, or they are, what do we say, expelled from their families. They're not accepted. And a good amount of these victims become runaways, or they are forced to leave their homes. And this is a great amount of the victims in this scenario.
All right, so here are a few sex trafficking facts that we want to highlight. Again, being Black women in data science, we want to highlight these specifically because 40% of sex trafficking victims were identified as Black women. Ironically, you wonder why that number is so high. Is because criminals, according to the Urban Institute, believe that Black women would land them less jail time if they were caught trafficking than white women. Okay, so we just wanted to note that. Again, my partner recently spoke on the socioeconomic status, usually target individuals such as Black women with a low socioeconomic status, and many victims are less likely to leave the situation to make ends meet, which could like be in forced marriage, or they're just unable to leave the situation. So in the graph, you can see that nearly a third of children are trafficked, but the majority group that are trafficked through all years from 2004 to 2016 are women. Again, that age group from 17 to 33 would be the greatest age group of women being trafficked. So what was the purpose of our project? So we partnered with a nonprofit organization called Erase Child Trafficking, leveraging social media, specifically the Facebook platform, to increase awareness of human and child trafficking by reducing the level of trafficking, reaching individuals in need of assistance, or for leaving their human trafficking situation and giving them resources to help out. So we wanted to first determine the types of posts that were most successful. And again, we were evaluating success by estimating the value of each type of engagement. So that can be likes, shares, comments, etc. on each post, and evaluating the post attributes. What did they use? The use of celebrities, did they do a live video? What tended to drive more positive post results and interactions? So our review of our initial approach before we were given our data set, what were some of our original thoughts that we believe would help achieve the goal of the nonprofit? So first, you want to develop a consistent schedule for uploading new content. This is very critical in any algorithm used. Usually you want to post 4 to 5 times a day to make sure you're still at the top of your audience feed, social media feed. The increased use of infographics that provide information in a short, concise, and engaging manner. Nobody wants to read a full paragraph. Pictures are more amusing, and especially in the Facebook platform and Instagram platform. And if you would like to include information, please make sure that it's highlighted or bolded so the audience can take away the key points in which you're trying to continue out throughout the post. The interactive stories via Facebook, creator joining a Facebook group to interact with people that share the same goals and interests. We all have seen Facebook communities. So what Facebook community they could possibly join to eliminate child trafficking, live videos from people in the nonprofit organization giving facts or helpful tips, fact of the day posts, which I have proven to be useful in my personal organizations. Again, just the interactive posts to help with the audience and increasing engagement, which is the ultimate goal. And again, we are dealing with a nonprofit organization. So we intended on spending $200 maximum per month on advertising, with only using $6 a day in hopes to increase the Facebook community given on the nonprofit. So our research question and hypothesis. So are certain words and posts significant when determining the engagement levels on Facebook posts? Our hypothesis that Woomy and I came up with, that there is a significance that exists between certain words, the types of posts, and the engagement level. So here's a description of the data set.
So the Erased Child Trafficking data set was comprised of mainly Facebook analytics from January 2017 to February 2021. It's made up of 2,400 observations, also known as the rows in R, and 10 variables, which are known as the columns. And some of the variables included in the data set are company, date, the type of post, URL, text, total engagement, engagement rate, reactions, shares, and comments. So next up is our data augmentation strategy and process. So first we did data wrangling. Data wrangling is known as the process of cleaning, structuring, and enriching raw data into a particular format. And some important functions used in this section were the NA function, which allows you to check for missing values in the data set, the select function paired with a -C to remove columns within the data set, capitalize function, which allows you to capitalize character values in a data set, so standardizing that data to get it uniform, call names paired with the C to change the column names, as date to change character values to dates, and the strp time function to convert character values to the class posit. So in figure 2, you can see that we're checking for missing values in the data set and removing them if necessary. You can see that it returns 0, thus there are no missing values within the data set. In figure 3, you can see that we removed the columns from the data set. So in this instance, we removed the company column. We renamed the columns in the data set, and we capitalized the values in the character value columns to standardize the data as previously mentioned. So in figure 4, you can see that we organized the dates and placed them into chronological order using the as.date function and the strp function. And as denoted in line 76, the dates will be written in year, month, day format. So in figure 5, you can see the original data set before data pre-processing. This data set was comprised of 2,400 observations and 10 variables. And in the new data set, you can see that it's comprised of 2,400 observations and 9 variables. If you look at the date column, you can see that the dates are arranged in chronological order now. Next up is exploratory data analysis. This is primarily done through the use of visualizations. And here we'll be looking for patterns, trends, anomalies that do exist in our data set. For this, we'll be using the str_detect function, which allows you to search for a specific string in the data set, the ggplot function, which creates a data visualization, and the summary function, which returns the descriptive statistic if numeric, or the length, class, and mode if it is non-numeric. So using EDA, we can answer the following questions. What is the most used post type by Erase Child Trafficking? Which year had the most posts, and which word appears the most in the data set?
So to answer those questions, words that appear most in the text column, we see we have law enforcement. I'm just going to name a few: children, human trafficking. Trafficking again ended up being the #1 word. It is also a one word, so human trafficking and trafficking could go hand in hand. Safe, missing, help, and share. So this graph for figure 7 is the total number of posts by post type used by the organization. So we see they use mostly links. Users do not want to go to a second website to view information. Again, most users want to see what's in front of them, get the information they need, and move on according to their timeline. So links prove to not be helpful, as you will see in the data the data is upcoming, excuse me. Next was photos, videos, the status of a situation, or an event. In 2017, the start of the nonprofit, they had the most posts, going over 1,000 posts for the year. 2018, you see a decrease by almost 25% to 750 posts. 2019, again, a huge decrease, going to almost 350 posts. And for 2020, we would like to note that COVID-19 did happen during this year, so there would be a natural decline. In 2021, we were only given 2 months of data, which was January and February, so there is a significant decrease in the graph. So the top number of posts for 2017, as you can see in the summer months, it tends to get a little higher for the number of posts due to the increase in crime. So we would just like to note that. Also, you see the same for 2018, but you also see in January of 2018, there is a large increase in the total number of posts. Due to the holidays, there is an increase in trafficking due to traveling and everyone moving around. So that is the reason of why the total number of posts in January is so high in 2018. In 2019, again, you see those summer months shooting out. And in 2020, again, noting the pandemic, the first month, started off strong like we thought the year was gonna go, but we see a gradual decrease as we did in 2020. And 2021, we only have the data set for February and January. So here are those 2 months with their posts.
So next up is statistical analysis. We'll be looking for more trends that do exist in our data set. And for this section, we'll be using the mean function, which returns the mean value, and the ggplot function again to create some more visuals. So using statistical analysis, we'll answer these following questions. Which months had the highest average number of posts per year? And which year had the highest average number of posts? So in figure 14, you can see the average number of posts by year. 2017 had the greatest number. And as you can see, there's a gradual decline for each year. We would like to note that 2021 is an outlier, being that it's only comprised of data from January and February. In figure 15, you can see the average number of posts for 2017 through 2020. You can see that in purple, 2017 is noted, in blue, 2018, green, 2019, and in yellow, 2020. Next up is machine learning. And in this section, we will be creating a predictive model to find the trends and patterns in our data set. For this, we use a logistic regression model and a linear regression model. We used a linear regression for the post type and a logistic regression for the text. So in figure 14, you can see our training data set for the words. We trained it with 60% of the data. And in figure 15, you can see the testing data set. Below is the equation of the predictive model. And in figure 16, you can see the training data set. This is for the content type. So what type of post? And in figure 17, you can see the testing data set. We kept the training and testing data the same, so 60-40. And below is the equation of the predictive model.
All right, so what did the data tell us? Was our hypothesis proven true? So according to the data collected, there was supporting evidence for our hypothesis that there is significance as is for the post type and the words used in the nonprofit organization's Facebook posts. So using the machine learning models, we discovered that the total engagement, reactions, and shares are statistically significant for the post type. However, there are no values that are statistically significant for the text. Using the chi-square test, we found that there may be evidence for the null hypothesis when it comes to specific variables. The types of posts that had the highest engagement, again, were photos and images. So what's next? So our new approach and methodology on how to increase engagement for the nonprofit. Again, we want to keep some of the same original thoughts by developing that consistent schedule for uploading new content. This is very avoidable on many platforms. Like I said, being consistent is critical in being at the top of your audience social media feed. The increased use of infographics, since photo and images had the highest engagement rate that provides information in a short, concise, and engaging manner. Creating or joining a Facebook group to interact with people that share the same goals and interests. A fact of the day post using photos because they did have the highest engagement rate, and using predictive models to determine the success of each Facebook post and which words and posts were most impactful. Like we said, trafficking, human trafficking, they all had high engagement rates since those were the words usually searched up most for trafficking awareness. Incorporating a new machine learning model that works with unstructured data, and switching social media platforms altogether. So we focus on the Facebook platform for the nonprofit organization, but the highest group that was trafficked was 17 through 33, which is not, Facebook is not the platform in which you would see that audience most. So we were thinking about possibly switching social platforms altogether to TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, where that audience is mostly seen. We can engage in videos, giving helpful tips or resources, and raising awareness of trafficking through these platforms.
I wanted to expound on number 6. So I don't know if anyone noticed, but for textual data, you cannot use a regression model. Regressions only work for numeric data. So we would have to incorporate a whole new predictive model for this section.
All right, so our citations and references, here are a few sites of where we had our reports and data received from for our presentation. And our acknowledgements and major thanks and shout outs to Dr. Talitha Washington, the greatest. Thank you so much. The Academic Data Science Alliance, where we actually presented a few weeks ago at their conference during spring break in Orange County, California. National Science Foundation for our grant, Dr. Eric Mintz, Dr. Serena Lewis, the AUC Data Science Initiative, the HBCU Up Research Program, and the Erase Child Trafficking for the data sponsorship, excuse me.
Once again, my name is Woomy Michel. I am a graduating senior at Clark Atlanta University studying mathematics and computer science. I have tons of internship experience. I am proficient in Python, R, and SQL. And upon graduation, I will be conducting AI research and facial data research to determine which variables affect how pictures are read.
And again, I am Victoria Grase, a graduating senior at Clark Atlanta University, physics major, minor in mathematics. I have not accepted any of my internship offers yet, so we'll see what holds next upon me for graduation. And I am proficient in Python. I have multiple technical skills, interpersonal skills, and which would be great use for data science. Thank you all for coming to our presentation. If you have any questions, please drop it in. Please drop it in the chat, and thank you again for coming.
Awesome job, ladies. It was great. We're really proud of all the work that you've done. And I know as undergraduate students to come on this platform and present to across the national audience, it could be daunting. So we applaud your efforts and also your enthusiasm in data science. So great job, ladies. Super proud. So if anybody has any questions, y'all can feel free to put them either in the Q&A and or in the chat. So you're getting a lot of praise in the chat. I don't know if y'all seen it. Awesome job. Hi, Nikki. And some people are saying great presentation. All right, so again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to either drop them in the chat or put them in the Q&A. So when you all were doing this research, what kind of surprised you? Like, so sometimes when we go into these different scenarios, we think that A will happen, but B happens by surprise. So was there anything that surprised you as you were carrying out this research?
For a large organization, I was not expecting very inconsistent posting from them. So those large declines, they were kind of scary, very scary.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like maybe they didn't have a younger perspective to know that links and paragraphs weren't helpful or useful to their audience, that photos and images probably would grasp the eye more. So to know that they didn't have that perspective just yet could have been surprising. Yeah, I think that's all.
Yeah, a lot of small nonprofits, and Erase Trafficking is a very important nonprofit. They just may not have that communications machinery to really get that messaging and word out. And as you all saying, it's very important, and I totally agree. So somebody asks, what approach or approaches would you suggest to identify and locate trafficking networks, and what data sets would you need to do this job? And should I add that when you all are talking about human trafficking, you're talking about the United States, right?
Yes.
So this is trafficking that happens interior to the United States. It's not people coming from other countries. you're talking mainly about the United States, is that correct?
Yes, internally in the US.
Okay, so what approaches would you use to identify and locate trafficking networks, right? Because there may be some chitter, some chatter, Twitter, some chatter, I don't know. And what data sets would you need in order to get that job done?
I know that you can use ArcGIS to locate like migration patterns. So using that would be good. With regards to which data sets, I'm not entirely too sure how to like cross-check like platforms and like which like demographics from those platforms are like mostly like recruited for it.
I feel as if we were to partner with law enforcement, that they might have the data set given to see where those resources, those networks are coming from. So maybe a partnership with your local law enforcement could answer that question.
That makes a lot of sense because they may have data and platforms and they may be able to get into channels that we in the public sector may not get into, even though we may have some of the pieces, they may have other pieces, and when put together, maybe we can bring more awareness to the trafficking networks.
Yes, and that's all what it was about, collaboration, like we said in our methodology, finding those communities that would like to help achieve the goal of erasing human trafficking.
Right. So somebody says, since the data was for the US, is there an area in particular that was higher in the United States, or did you all do a query by location?
We actually did not factor in state and different regions of the United States. I know for further research and future research, we were thinking of using FBI data to see which states were mostly impacted. And I know that in ArcGIS, you can use clustering tools to locate hot points and hotspots and cold spots for actual trafficking.
Victoria, do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm looking at the chat at the other
I know, don't look at the chat, look at me.
I think Woomy covered everything in her response. That's again a next step for our data further. We actually have a presentation during the summer, so we might actually could implement that information in our presentation for the summer.
Wait, where's the presentation for the summer? What's going on here?
It's at NC State. It is a virtual presentation, so hopefully we'll be able to share the information of everyone who is here for our future presentations. So yeah, be on the lookout.
Awesome, good deal, good deal. And so someone asked, they said, you've presented a few times on your research and done a great job. Any presentation advice for other students who are doing data science and how to get their research out there and in front of audiences to present? And do you have any advice for us faculty folks? You know, how can we help students get more involved in doing data science research and projects?
Well, I think the AUC Data Science Initiative does a great job with giving opportunities. So really just check your email. There is always something to sign up for, whether it be a REU, a conference, virtually in person, just making sure that you're staying aware of the communication that's happening throughout your department, or like you said, the initiative. What was part of the question?
What advice do you have for faculty to, you know, because some students may be a little bit timid or shy to get in and to say, oh, is that program for me? Or maybe they're too engrossed in other things. So what advice can you give for faculty as what can we do to help better support students and along their data science trajectory?
I would like to answer this part. So sometimes you just need an extra push. I know for me, freshman year, I had originally done research through the NSF under Dr. Serena Lewis. And that research experience, it was quite interesting. I will say we were doing trig functions, research with trig functions. inscribed polygonal functions, that just was not for me. So I had to change research interests, and then she introduced me to data science. And since then, I've been presenting like my data science research at conferences such as NAM Math Fest. I've presented at the one we just did for the Academic Data Science Alliance and whatnot. So getting extra encouragement from your professors, you know, sometimes you just might have to register the student, just let them know, hey, this is what you're gonna do. But always taking that leap of faith.
That makes sense. And so I think I heard a shout out to Dr. Serena Lewis, who now I'm in denial that she's not with us anymore. She's the Associate Executive Director at the American Mathematical Society, but still is working with us in doing data and data science projects. Great, yeah. So somebody said, somebody put a link in the chat that if you're a CS math programming student looking for a summer research opportunity, apply to Stanford. So Stanford's looking for students, and if y'all have friends, to find them. So when you all, as you all are going to graduate school, how did you prepare to go to graduate school? What were your tips for creating the documents, the personal statement, the fun process of all of the paperwork and the angst? I know when I was at that age, it was many moons ago. Okay, I don't remember, but I'm assuming I was nervous. So how did you all negotiate that process?
Ooh, I'm gonna be honest, as someone who's the first to go to college, first to go to grad school, very lost, very confused. But I remember compiling a list starting at the end of junior year that summer, going into senior year. I was like, hey, these are the list of programs that I want to go into. And luckily, like, I'm in community with a lot of Black folks in academia on Twitter. So I was able to get like further assistance from them. I was able to have this one Black doctoral candidate at Yale look at my personal statement, and he helped me revise it. Having extra support because it was just bad. it was tough. But we're here now.
Yep, I hear the nervous laughter.
Yeah.
What do you think of Victoria?
Well, Woomy and I have different experiences. I am not the first in my family to go to college, but I'm not the first in my family to go to a secondary or postgraduate school. But so I lead on my resources, but being in those positions, like over those years of networking, being at different RUs, being at different companies, having those connections, reaching back out to them, like, oh, you have your master's in English. Would you mind like reviewing my personal statement? Things such as that, or you work in admissions, what should I include? So reaching out to those connections that you made over the years throughout your matriculation, and helping to view and see what programs are out there and available for application.
Those are some really great tips. Someone asked, did you notice any uptick in trafficking due to holidays or special events, maybe spring break, Christmas, etc.?
So as you can see well, I'm not going to go back, but in our presentation, we had it broken up by months. The summer months, June, July, August, tended to have more of an increase in posts due to an increase in crime, which usually happens during the summer. It is tend to be seen in humans more aggression during summer due to the heat. So crime is actually committed more in the summer months. For the holidays per se, I believe the year was 2018, January 2018, there was a significance in posts and increase due to it just coming off the Christmas and New Year holiday of the previous year and the current year. So of course, spring break, we didn't see, usually in the months of March and April, we didn't see an increase in posting, but for what was stated, yes.
Awesome. And do you have, if you could wave your magic wand, right, your magic data wand, what recommendations would you have for folks in order to connect people to address this issue of human trafficking?
That's a good question. If I could wave my magic wand, first I would start locally. You would have to build. I'm not sure what level you want that to be on, but locally. So I would say your local law enforcement, schools, universities, colleges, or that could be high school, elementary schools, to get students' perspectives. Seeing what other organizations are in your community that have the same goal again, and maybe have like a community meeting on a weekend, maybe at a town hall. A possibility can be presented of how to tackle that issue, or having a separate meeting outside of that.
Could you repeat the question again, Dr. Washington?
Like if you could wave your magic wand, like with either sort of data or what sort of effort should be done to really address this issue of human trafficking?
I would say believe Black women, believe women of marginalized identities. We saw how Victoria noted that Black girls and Black women are some of the most trafficked girls. And part of that is because of anti-Blackness and how like we're perceived. And oftentimes like Black women aren't offered the opportunity like to be actual victims because of tropes like strong Black women, or empathy is oftentimes racialized, like we don't get empathy from other racial counterparts, or like, oh, it couldn't have happened to you. So I would say like changing some of those narratives that do exist could possibly cause a shift in the ways that we perceive human trafficking, but also noting that there's different kinds of human trafficking that do exist, like forced labor or unpaid labor in general. So yeah, things of that nature, changing the perspectives that we currently have and like challenging them.
Very important. Go ahead.
Just wanted to expound upon what Woomy was saying. You can see these perspectives being showed just not only through society and our communities, but even through social media. For shadow banning, you won't see women of color, Black women, people with darker skin tones are actually shadow banned by multiple media platforms. So they won't be at the top of your feed. So that could be a step in the right direction of increasing the awareness for those marginalized groups.
Okay. Shadow banning?
Also add,
What's
Shadow
shadow
banning?
ban? I don't know what shadow ban is. I'm old. Sorry.
oh, it's
So,
basically,
Oh,
you
go
want
ahead, Woomy. You was gonna go ahead.
basically when you post and no one can see your stuff, and during this time period, your likes will go down, your shares will go down, no one will see your post but you.
Yes, and actually,
So yeah.
TikTok
Yeah.
actually had a very controversial issue during the Black Lives Matter movement last summer in 2021, where they actually shadow banned the Black Lives Matter hashtag altogether. So it wasn't popping up at the top of feeds. So it was like the TikTok dances that were really popular from white creators, white content creators. So yeah, that's shadow banning, just making sure that no one's able to access it and it won't be viewed by your usual audience.
Yeah, it's like being muted in social media.
Yeah,
Like
that's
a
exactly
like
what
a
it
like
is.
a little soft block.
Yeah, a soft block.
I've been there. I've been muted on virtual panels. But anyway, we won't talk about that. So, but yes, that is definitely a thing. I think it does happen to women of color, African American women. Yes. Oh, so thank you for that. So somebody asked, did you notice any trafficking patterns of note during this pandemic period that may have been caused by the pandemic?
Well, actually, we received less data due to the setback of the FBI, like other platforms that usually report those statistics. So we actually didn't receive the data for the 2020 and 2021 years as much as we would like to see than the previous years, due to it being a switch to a virtual environment and less in-person interactions. So yes, and actually domestic violence increased over the pandemic due to the housing, with everyone again being in that virtual environment. So people were staying home with their abusers instead of having that outlet to go to work. So there was actually an increase in domestic violence across the pandemic. Fun fact. That wasn't fun at all.
Yeah, no, not at all. I really appreciate y'all's fresh perspective in looking at human trafficking, especially when we think of who gets impacted. And I think it's important to have people of different ages, demographic groups, really looking at this data to understand the context. And it's complicated. It's not something that's easy, right? Number one, I don't think it's an easy topic to research, but at the same time, it's also super important. So as you all are moving forward in your data science lives, launching from math major, physics major, doing wonderful things, where do you all see yourself? I don't know, when you're old like me. Or somewhere therein. You know, I'm still 20 something, but we'll talk about that later.
Girl, you're
Definitely.
I definitely still want to conduct research. I can't see myself working at a large tech industry, specifically big tech, after the scandal that happened last summer at Google and other tech companies with how they treat Black employees. But I do see myself still conducting research in ethical AI and algorithmic fairness. Is something that I will always advocate for. Something that I will always advocate for. So minimizing or eradicating the bias that does exist in these algorithms. Making sure like people have like more pleasant experiences with technology, because I know like technology itself is like violent towards Black folks and other marginalized people.
Great. Victoria?
I actually, after the ADSA conference, I realized that I might want to be in academia. Surprisingly, I know. Shout out to Dr. Black. Shout out to a few people at the ADSA conference. But
Dr. Black at Jason Black at FAMU, Florida A&M. Mm-hmm. We won't talk about the pearls though, but okay, go ahead, Victoria.
And so what better way to give back than to go and teach the generation after you, teach them about ethical research, what's happening in the community, presenting research like this so they can expound upon and ask the what's next questions. So that will probably be where I'll be at when I'm around your young age, Dr. Washington. So that's probably what I'll be doing.
I love that. And I'll put a link to the ADSA conference in the chat in case anybody's interested there. And I'll let y'all know, when I was, I think, in your shoes many decades ago, don't tell anybody, when dinosaurs were roaming around, I had no idea I would get a PhD, let alone actually end up in academia. So you never know where your path may go. And we do wish you all the best as you move forward. We appreciate your insights, your diligence, your hard work, and taking time to share your research with us today. We really appreciate it. We applaud you all. And hopefully let's keep in touch. I'd love to see where you all go and end up. Y'all are gonna, as they say, do it and do it big. So thank you all. Thanks everybody for joining us today. We will be back on April 8th at the same time, 12 noon. And we're going to be talking about, as you all had said, the need to bring local law enforcement and academia together. We are walking in that direction. So we're going to have a panel discussion on using data to drive reform through prosecutorial performance. And then we'll have Asinki Kuda, I can't say his last name, I apologize. From Florida International University, they're going to talk about prosecutorial performance indicators. And also George Jenkins, who's the executive district attorney here in Fulton County and a Morehouse graduate, and he's in the trial division. And he'll be joining with us and just talking about what's happening here locally in the prosecutor's office in Fulton County. So join with us on April 8th. And thanks again, Woomy, Michel, and Victoria Grase, and congrats to all of your accomplishments. Go ye forth and do the data, as they say.